What if I told you that the U.S. economy is quietly bleeding, and most Americans don't even see it happening? While the headlines scream about inflation and job growth, something far more dangerous is unfolding beneath the surface. Millions of retirees are running out of money, and the safety net they were promised is vanishing. For decades, Americans believed that if they worked hard, saved a little, and played by the rules, they'd retire in comfort. But in 2025, that dream is slipping away. Pension plans are drying up, Social Security is running on fumes, and personal savings, for many, they're already gone. Behind closed doors, experts are warning of a looming retirement crisis, one that could shake the very foundation of the American economy. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about millions of real people waking up to a terrifying truth. They might never be able to stop working. So how did we get here? And what happens when the golden years turn into a financial nightmare? It wasn't always like this. In the decades following World War II, America experienced an economic boom unlike any other. Factories roared, unions thrived, and middle-class families built lives with stability and a future. Back then, retirement wasn't just a fantasy. It was a promise. Workers could count on company pensions, affordable health care, and a social security system that was flush with funds. A typical worker might spend 30 years at the same job, retire at 65, and enjoy a quiet life surrounded by grandkids, backyard barbecues, and financial peace. But the 1980s changed everything. As corporations began cutting costs, pensions, those guaranteed monthly checks for life, started to vanish. In their place came the 401k, a shiny new savings plan that shifted all the risk to workers. Suddenly, the responsibility for retirement wasn't in the hands of employers or the government, it was yours. And that shift was seismic. Most Americans were never taught how to invest. Many never made enough to save in the first place. And over time, the cost of living skyrocketed. Healthcare became more expensive. Housing prices surged. Wages stagnated. Today, nearly half of U.S. adults over 55 have no retirement savings at all. That's over 30 million people. Meanwhile, Social Security, which once lifted generations out of poverty, is projected to start running a shortfall by 2033. Take Barbara Miller, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. After dedicating 4 decades to public education, she expected to retire comfortably. But rising insurance premiums and inflation swallowed her savings. Now she works part-time at a grocery store, not for extra cash, but to survive. Her story isn't rare, it's becoming the norm. And what's worse, the system that was meant to support people like Barbara may have already collapsed under its own weight. On paper, the economy looks strong. Unemployment is low. The stock market is up. But underneath those headlines lies a truth few are willing to confront. America is sleepwalking into a retirement catastrophe. Consider this. The average 401k balance for people nearing retirement is just $113,900. That might sound like a decent amount until you realize it translates to about $400 a month over a 30-year retirement. That barely covers rent in most cities, let alone food, medicine, or emergencies. Even worse, nearly 1 in 4 Americans have nothing saved at all. Not a single dollar. And for the millions who rely solely on Social Security, the picture is even grimmer. The average monthly Social Security check is just $1,907, a figure that hasn't kept up with skyrocketing inflation or the rising cost of basic necessities. And then there's the housing crisis. Rents have surged more than 30% since the pandemic. Seniors who once owned homes are being forced to sell just to stay afloat. Others fall victim to predatory reverse mortgage schemes, losing their homes in their final years. Shelters across the country report a disturbing trend. Homelessness among people over 60 is rising faster than in any other age group. Some experts argue this is a personal responsibility issue. People should have saved more, they say. But that view ignores decades of policy decisions and economic shifts that made saving nearly impossible for millions. Stagnant wages, crippling student debt carried into middle age, jobs with no retirement plans, gig work without benefits. The system wasn't just flawed, it was rigged. And as boomers retire at a rate of 10,000 people per day, the cracks are widening fast. Financial advisors are sounding alarms. Economists warn of a looming burden on public services, healthcare, and housing. But for most Americans, the alarm is silent. They won't hear it until it's too late. Imagine working your entire life minus 40, even 50 years, believing that one day you'll rest. Then one morning, at 72 years old, you wake up and realize you can't afford to stop. That's exactly what happened to Richard Lyons, a former truck driver from Indiana. After a back injury ended his career, he burned through his retirement savings paying for surgery and physical therapy. Social Security wasn't enough. His pension, canceled when his employer went bankrupt. Now Richard delivers food for DoorDash, driving 10 hours a day just to cover medication and rent. He's not alone. Thousands of seniors are flooding into gig apps and hourly jobs, not for extra cash, but because they simply have no choice. And it gets worse. The next financial shock could crush them completely. According to the Federal Reserve, 40% of retirees say they couldn't handle an unexpected $500 expense. One hospital stay, one car repair, one missed rent payment, and they could lose everything. Meanwhile, the programs meant to protect them are reaching their breaking point. Social Security's trust fund is projected to be depleted by 2033, which would trigger an automatic 23% cut in benefits unless Congress acts. Medicare, on a similar path, and private long-term care insurance, either too expensive or already denied to those who need it most. And while politicians argue over budgets and deficits, elder suicide rates are quietly rising. According to the CDC, suicide rates for people aged 75 and older are among the highest of any age group in the U.S. That's the hidden cost of this crisis. Not just financial collapse, but emotional devastation. Seniors who feel abandoned, forgotten, invisible. We were told retirement was the reward for a life of hard work. But for millions of Americans, it's becoming the final struggle, a fight not to live well, but just to live it all. This isn't a distant future. It's happening right now, all around us. This isn't just an economic issue, it's a human one. Behind every number is a life, a story, a person who played by the rules and still lost. The retirement crisis exposes a deeper truth, that a system built on endless growth has left its elders behind. So we have to ask ourselves, what kind of society do we want to be? One that forgets its aging population, or one that fights to protect them before it's too late? If this story moved you, share it. Like the video, subscribe for more untold truths, and let us know in the comments. Do you think America is prepared for its aging population? Have you or someone you know felt the weight of this crisis? Your voice matters. Let's start the conversation. And maybe, together, we can spark the change that's long overdue.